going on, everyone? In this video, we'll be talking about SAT December, the last SAT of 2022. But the way this video is going to work, we're going to break it down, talking about the curve, some key SAT December tips, and the future of the SAT, because with all the digital SAT news that's coming up with international students and then eventually US-based students, everyone's like, oh, what's gonna happen? All right, so first let's talk about the SAT curve, right? So I did my due diligence, did my analysis, did my calculations, and I can say that the SAT December usually has an average to easy curve. Now, what exactly does this mean? So basically, a hard curve is when the actual SAT is easy, which means that, you know, everyone's getting like questions correct, like it's really easy stuff, left and right. You're not getting, your raw score is probably like only missing 4 or 5 questions on each section. As a result, you know, the College Board can't have everyone getting, you know, 750, 780 on the SAT. So they're gonna implement a harsher curve. So if you get like 1 question wrong, you might already be at a 770. Right? If you get 2 questions wrong, you might be at a 730. And that's the way a hard curve will work, right? And a lot of students are like, dang, like, oh, I only got 1 question wrong, yet my score dropped so much. That's because your SAT exam that you took, like for that month, was really, really easy. So you probably should have got 100%, but you didn't. So as a result, you're gonna suffer the consequences. That's maybe College Board's thinking. Now, when a curve is easy, that means the actual SAT exam was hard. And you see, at College Board, imagine you get all your SAT scores back of your students and everyone got like less than a 1200. College Board will not want that. That does not look good. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna curve the exam. They might like make some questions not worth as much. They might make some other questions, you know, valued more. They might even remove some questions entirely, right? Omitted or whatever. And as a result, students score, like the average score will be a little more inflated, because you wouldn't want like the SAT being so hard that every student is failing and then parents are like, yo, based on this grade distribution, I see that literally every student did bad. We paid money for this and you administered a super hard SAT exam, and College Board doesn't want to deal with that, which is why they'll probably make a easier curve for a harder SAT exam. That's how the curves work. And in December, the curve has usually been average to easy, which means the actual SAT exam is like a little more hard in terms of raw questions. But at the end of the day, guys, if you use your SAT math tips and tricks or my SAT math course, you'll probably get, you know, a high SAT math score. If you practice SAT reading, you'll probably get a high SAT reading score. Now let's talk about some key SAT tips so you guys can actually get that SAT math, SAT reading score you've been trying to get this whole time, this whole year. Like, comment down below if your SAT December is not your first SAT. I actually wonder how many students are taking December SAT as a second or third SAT. This is the last SAT of the year, so it makes sense that a lot of students might end up taking this one. So the first SAT tip, and you guys can find all my tips and tricks in my SAT math course. The first tip is -b over a is the sum of the solutions. So when you get a quadratic, you know, your ax squared plus bx plus c, -b divided by a will give you the sum of the solutions of that quadratic. C over a will give you the product of the solutions of that quadratic. So c is at the end, a is in the beginning, c over a, you get the product of your solutions. These 2 tricks will save you so much time on the SAT. Like literally you could do a problem that might take 2 minutes because you have to do the quadratic formula within 2 seconds, because you know the -b over a trick. This is, like I said, one of the many tips and tricks in my SAT math course. Please be sure to check the link in the description below. Next trick, scaling linear equations. Now, scaling linear equations is gonna help you for a majority of the SAT, since for the math section, heart of algebra is like the most dominant section. So linear equation questions, and I guarantee you're gonna get that question where it's gonna give you one linear equation and one right underneath, and it's gonna ask you what is the solution to the system of linear equations. A lot of students, what they're gonna do, they're gonna try to solve for x, right, and in terms of y, then plug that back in for the x in the second equation, then, you know, isolate y and then solve for y. Yes, you can do that, but you can also be wasting your time as you do that. So the better thing to do is to scale the linear equation. So you want to match the coefficients of either the x's or the y's, subtract or add to eliminate that variable, and then solve for the remaining variable, plug that into original, and then solve for the other variable. Super easy. I'm telling you, it's one of the best tricks for the SAT math that you could possibly learn. And now let's talk about reading. All right, so inference questions. Inference questions are questions that students really struggle on because they tend to use information that is not given in the text. Guys, when you're given an inference question, only use the information given in the text. Don't assume anything, okay? Number one thing, do not assume anything when you are given an inference question. If they say, hey, the kid was walking across the street without his parent, you can't just say, oh, the parent wasn't there because he was in the hospital. That was never given in the text. Now, that might be a valid reason as to why the parent wasn't there, but that's not given in the text, so don't make that inference. Second tip for reading, annotations. Guys, you must annotate your text, because by annotating, you're constantly activating your brain and drawing connections, right? If you're not annotating, you're literally reading words. That's it. But you're not understanding anything unless you're a really good reader. But most people, like myself, will not understand what we're reading. We'll probably blank out as a reader. You might even think about like going Dunkin' Donuts, drinking coffee or something while we're reading, even though the reading might be about Abraham Lincoln and slavery or something, right? So you don't want to have that be you. So make sure to annotate so that way your brain is constantly active and you're constantly thinking and realizing what you're reading. Because if you don't, then you're gonna fail. The last tip is to read questions first. This tip honestly saved my SAT reading score because I used to get like 620s, and then eventually I was able to get like a 700, 740. That's why I got my actual SAT for reading, because by reading questions first, I actually know why I'm reading. All right, none of us are reading these passages for fun. I hope, at least, right? We're reading these questions, we're reading these passages so we can answer these questions so we get a high SAT score. So does it make sense to like read the questions first so you know exactly why you are reading these passages, right? Because imagine you only have to read like 3/4 of the passage and you're able to answer every single question. Do you want to read that last paragraph? Like, I don't think you do, right? So as a result, read the questions first, jot down some questions in your brain or on the paper. So as you read, you can answer these questions as you go, versus reading these questions, going back, rereading text, and then answering the question, because that just takes a long time and that messes you up. And now let's talk about the future of the SAT. All right, first things first, this is the last SAT of the year, right? If you're a senior, you will get your score before regular decision application, so you can always send your scores to whatever college you're applying to for the regular decision January 1st deadline. So I do not want you to think, oh my God, I can't take the SAT, there's no point. No, there's a point. You can literally raise your score. This is your last chance before applying to college. And if you're a junior or you're a sophomore or a freshman, you should go play outside. You can take this SAT and get out the way, see how you do, and you can always improve. You have a bunch of time to take more SATs, right? And now talk about the digital SAT. All right, so digital SAT will be first given to international students. I'll create a big video on this, like a full in-depth video, my next video. And so we can talk about this digital SAT. You guys can ask your questions in the comments below. I'll answer all of them. The digital SAT is coming, right? Like, there's no thing about that, but it's not what you guys think. You're not gonna be sitting home taking SAT. I know a lot of people think that, they're like, oh shoot, I'm about to cheat. No, that's not how it works, all right? So I'll talk about that in my next video, so be sure to subscribe right now so you guys get all the latest news, updates, tricks, patterns, everything you need to know about SAT or anything academic. Thank you all for watching. See you all next time. Peace.